Hey, and welcome to the Snelling Forging the Future podcast. My name is Bennett. I'm your host, and today I'm talking with Wes Pickering and Chris Reimer from Pic the Gift, a print-on-demand wholesale fulfillment facility over in St. Louis. Super excited to to you gentlemen today. Would one of you like to do a quick introduction to Pic the Gift?
Sure, Bennett. I'll jump in. Yeah, Pick the Gift. We started in 2012, just with the kind of mission of trying to make small order gifts, getting them out to people, and do it as best as we can. And you fast forward a few years, you add a few people, you add a few products, and next thing you know, you're you're out there selling a bunch of them.
Yeah.
We got a lot of great people and a lot of great customers, and it's kind of got us here today.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, so Wes, you are the owner and founder of Pick the Gift. And then Chris, I understand you joined in a little bit more recently. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I've been here since October, so I guess I'm in finishing up my third or fourth month. I lose track, but interesting story. Last September, I found myself looking for a new marketing director role. And so I posted to my LinkedIn network with the intention of spreading word far and wide about my availability. And I can say that post got 30,000 impressions. And I think one impression mattered the most. Wes saw my post and he messaged me, and it was the first LinkedIn message ever between us. And he's like, said something to the effect of, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but we used to eat lunch at the same sandwich shop." And that is how I met him and our chief operating officer, Keith. We used to see each other at the sandwich shop. And so, of course, I did remember him. And, as a job seeker, this is exactly what you want to see happen. You want to see,
Right.
you want to, that really demonstrates the importance of having a network. And
Mhm.
before this podcast, I actually went and looked just to see, and it turns out that Wes and I connected on LinkedIn in October of 2011. So somewhere in between sandwiches and going back to work, I must have been like, "Hey, I want to be connected to this guy." So
Yeah.
anyway, I wasn't sure I wanted to leave the nonprofit world. I'd worked at a few nonprofits, and my goal was to get back into higher education. But a few meetings with Wes and Keith, they made it clear there was a big opportunity at Pick the Gift. And so I'm really glad I joined the company.
We're glad to have him.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love that anecdote. It seems like you said, a good reminder of why it's important to create a network. Always be putting your best foot forward with people, even if you don't realize at the time that there might be a business opportunity down the road. That's great. Well, Wes, you started Pick the Gift with a pretty contrarian idea. Custom gifts with a minimum quantity of one. What convinced you that that model could scale?
That assumes I'm convinced it would scale. I wasn't, but I thought it was, I was kind of told you can't, be successful with small orders. And I was like, oh, that sounds silly. I think you can be, you can do anything if you set your
Mhm.
mind to it and kind of structure it correctly, you prepare for it. Um, I think you can accomplish anything. So I thought it's worth a try. I don't know that I don't know I was convinced it was going to scale, but I knew it was worth a try. We'll go
Sure.
there. And yeah, and as you get into it, you start solving problems and you start seeing opportunities and I'm sure a lot of luck had to play into it, right? Is that the market had to turn and people had to look that direction and I happened to be there. But, um, I mean, everyone says I don't give us enough credit, but I mean, we did do a couple things right along the way, probably too, to help our luck. But, that was just it wasn't this big old grandiose thing of here's where we're going to be, right? We're gonna start a business and we're just gonna do the best we can, and we're gonna continue to treat people well, and good things happen.
Okay. Excuse me, I don't know a lot about about your background. Did you come in from this industry and have an awareness of it already?
Yeah, I was in this industry selling equipment and supplies, so I was not on the manufacturing. I was on distribution side. So I just saw it and thought it was an opportunity, and thought it was at least worth a shot. And here we are.
So I suppose that gave you some insight as to what it could look like in the long term, and then that probably was very helpful getting started. Well, what's your candidate base look like right now? I mean to say your team. I believe you have well over 100 employees.
Correct. We have, I think we're right around 120 employees right now. We were over 200 for the holiday season, which, so all the temporary assignments were ended, I believe at the end of December. So we're back kind of more to our core group and going to work most of the year through that until we get back to Q4 and do it all again.
Gotcha. I know that that can come with its challenges. We can chat a little bit about that, but processing over 1 million orders a year with peak sessions is definitely no small feat. What's been the biggest operational challenge as you've grown?
Biggest operational challenge is probably on the people side. Early on, we were solving problems with labor, and we realized quickly we had to put more processes in first to help manage the people, and that yielded better results.
Okay. Yeah, understood. That definitely makes sense. Well, hiring, I know, can look very different for you depending on the season. How do you think about bringing people in seasonal, temp, or long term?
We anticipate doing, and forecasting is a little bit of throwing something on a wall and seeing what happens here. But so we have a general idea of where we hope to be. We know how many people it takes us to get to that. But what we teach our core team is flexibility. They all
Mhm.
have to work in different departments. They all have to understand different aspects, which gives us the ability to move as volume shifts, right? Inevitably one season, we're going to sell more of a product we weren't expecting and less of another. Well, we need those people to be able to do multiple things to help us. So when they're able to move, we're able to put more labor with them, temp labor, to help support that and manage the scales. So that's kind of our prep to get us there. Probably what has gotten us the most success and what gets them to stick is the process.
Absolutely.
As you've nailed in processes, that gives the new employees a more direct way to work versus just complete freedom. When you give complete freedom or give them a teach them one time and then expect them to do it, that creates a lot of problems and situations. So um, we try and nail the process down so that when they come in, they have a clear idea of what's expected, how to do it, and that gives us by far that's easily the biggest success we have.
Making clear expectations, clear processes so employees know what success looks like, know how, when they're doing their job well. That definitely makes a ton of sense.
What probably creates the most success for us is the transfer of knowledge from our people, right? And making them more versatile. When we started cross training and we started raising the level of our permanent employees, that raised the level of our temporary employees. When you don't expect much out of your permanent employees or you have just a basic labor pool in house, it's really hard for that pool to train temporary labor pools, right?
Gotcha.
But when you train them to train others and you give them more responsibility and more expectation, their value, they can multiply themselves, right? By adding labor to them. Early on in the first few years, you put a temporary worker with an employee who's never been trained on how to train somebody, and that they both just stand there. You
Right,
don't
right.
get much out of that, right?
That
So
makes
so you learn through that and you learn how to teach them how to work with others. And we mandate
Mhm.
that they work as a group all year, even though a job or a subset of the business may only require one person to do the job. We'd rather put three people in it, make them do it together in a third of the time, and then move them to another area versus let them take one job and take it all day. We get the same output, but it teaches them better.
Yeah. And I'd imagine it's more stimulating. I feel like even when it's not completely necessary, cross training is just great because employees have a little bit more variety in their day and their week, and it's more dynamic, and that can be really exciting and
You would be
stimulating.
surprised. I would say, as a rule, most people
Yeah.
like to work by themselves and set their own pace.
Okay. Yeah,
So
definitely.
surprisingly, it is much more challenging than you think to get people to work together.
And is it also challenging to motivate people to cross train? Is that what you're saying as well? Or really? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is kind of surprising.
Most human nature is adverse to change, most people, right? They
Okay. Yeah.
don't like variety. They don't like change. They like to come in and do their own thing at their own pace. If someone else is there, that person disrupts their pace, disrupts their style, and it's a teaching thing. It's not easy.
I wouldn't claim to be going against human nature, but I've always loved in jobs when I get to switch things up. Do y'all feel that way about your position, or do you feel like,
I mean, absolutely. I would go crazy if I did the same thing every day.
yeah,
Yeah. I can say as well that, as marketing director, getting a chance to spend time on the floor, on the production floor during busy season was amazing. I learned a lot about our processes and our people. And honestly, I learned respect for the work
hmm
that they do, the hard work that they do. I would go home after 12 hours on my feet. I was like, well, these folks do this every day and I'm exhausted, so it really teaches you respect for, the processes and all the hard work that they put into making our products.
absolutely. Yeah, I think that kind of management coming from, or that kind of respect coming from top level management is definitely in the lifeblood of any good company. Well, Chris, I'm glad you chimed in there because speaking of making good decisions in hiring, you joined Pick the Gift fairly recently after years in nonprofit work. What stood out to you about the culture here, and how did that influence your decision to come on board?
One thing I noticed pretty quickly, and in discussions before saying yes to joining, is that Wes, Keith, our chief operating officer, and really everyone on the leadership team seem to care about our people. They care about increasing revenues and about taking care of our customers. I am really not experiencing any form of micromanagement. These people do not care about dumb stuff. And I usually
Mm.
don't say stuff. I usually say the four-letter S word, but we're keeping it clean for Snelling here.
Yeah, I appreciate that wide stream audience
I
here.
can't, but I can't stress enough to your listenership. Caring about dumb stuff will absolutely exhaust your employees. It will burn them out,
Hmm.
they'll stop trying, they will stop striving for greatness, and they'll leave. Basically, instead of people bringing their entrepreneurial, creative problem solving skills to their job to solve problems, what they'll end up saying to themselves is, will the boss like this solution? Not what is the right solution for our business. So, and the one thing I've always said to myself is that work is hard enough. Every challenge that we face as Pick the Gift as a company should come from external sources. We're talking about competition, market forces, demanding customers, shifting demographics, lack of pricing power. These are all challenges that great companies face, but we don't need challenges from within. Everything I listed is enough. So
Right.
that's what I find that we do well here at Pick the Gift, that we care about the important stuff. And that was very attractive to me.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Wes, does that bring anything to mind for you? Do you agree with that assessment as Chris, the newcomer coming in?
Absolutely. He did a great job. I mean, assessing it. He's much better reports than I am.
And maybe than both of us, to be honest. No, I mean that makes a ton of sense. So kind of focusing on the important details, not getting too wrapped up in the nitty gritty. I don't know, the dumb stuff, right? The things that might exhaust an employee and make them kind of cater to what they think you want instead of what is actually best for the company and the production.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I have spent my time here at Pick the Gift dreaming about the future and not really worrying about, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? There's no eggshells to be walked upon.
Right.
There's not, as far as I've noticed so far. The minute I screw up, I'm sure I'll hear from Wes and Keith, but until then, I feel as though my ideas are listened to. I feel respected, celebrated, empowered, challenged. And these are the kind of things you want your employees to feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's super admirable, and I would give y'all kudos because I know that can be a tough balance to strike. You have to put a lot of energy into your employees and trust into them to kind of work with that ratio you just described. But it sounds like it's working out really well. Well, okay, Wes, you've been very intentional about making the Gift a better place to work. I don't mean to be repetitive here, but what changes have mattered the most to you employees so far? Is that cross training, or does anything else come to mind?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is a breadth of changes, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I think we focus in on what change is going to fix everything, and nothing does that. I mean, everybody wants different things, right? And that's what we try and do. We try and to give just improve the overall offering because we know it's going to impact people differently.
Right.
For example, during our slower times of years, we're giving a lot of time off. Well, that's great for some people. They love it. And other people want money and they want to work. Right.
Sure.
So it's kind of like you balance both.
Mhm.
You can't kind of do them both. So, we're trying to come up with ways where we give at least a minimum guaranteed time that they're going to make. They're going to get certain hours no matter what. We're going to guarantee pay unless you want to go home and time off is more valuable to you. Great. We'll give you that option as well. Right. So, I mean, we try and balance to where we can hit the majority of people, realizing that pleasing everybody is not going to be in the works. Right.
Sure.
Same thing with benefits. We continue to add more benefits as we hear from our employees, different things that maybe we didn't think about or maybe aren't in any of our lives, but, might benefit them. So being open, listening, that helps kind of get the employees kind of what they want. And, even this holiday season, an employee approached me about something. It was a policy or something we had in place. And my answer to him was, do you have a better solution? Because we can do it next year. I mean, I'm open to what your thought is. I understand why you're saying it. And they're like, no, I understand why you did what you did. And it makes sense. I just wanted to talk about it. I said, if you have another solution, let's talk about that because we can implement it next year if it makes sense. So, it all comes down to just communicating and being open and being prepared to listen
Yeah.
and then try and solve it. And then, a lot of times just explain it. A lot of times they just don't think about everybody else too, right? In their world,
Right.
this is what was important. Well, you
Sure.
explain, well, if I do it there, then I have to do this. And they're like, yeah, I'd rather do, okay, well, I get it. We're good now. So sometimes just communicating the reasons behind things helps.
Well, I really admire you fostering this environment of open communication. And it sounds like, employees, be them entry level or somebody who's worked with you for a little while, they're pretty aware of this at this point. Like that anecdote you just mentioned, somebody's bringing concerns to you and you're listening. Has that been the case? Like something that you've always focused on?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's probably harder today than it was early on, as we've grown, right? I
Okay.
mean, when you're smaller, it's a whole lot easier to be involved and know everybody. So, I've tried intentionally to be less visible over the last couple years to try and help management and leadership get their footholds. But, coming into this year, we're working harder on now cycling back because I feel like everybody kind of is there. Because, if the owner's walking around, they tend to get more attention. And so, as unintentional as you try and be, and you're trying to stay away, it doesn't matter. So, I've tried to, allow the managers and people to do things without me, right? And let them take over so that people understand that I support them and they're there, right? And that helps the process too.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Expand. You operate across multiple facilities and also have remote staff. What have you learned about leading and staying connected as the team grows?
Yeah, I think, as we've grown, I've had to try, like I said, step back, right?
Hmm.
And then come back in. We want to work on communicating across all things. And that's one of the areas that we constantly strive to improve is communication across all facilities.
Hmm.
So we're given a similar message. That said, not all facilities are the same, right? There are some varieties in different workforces and different things that play in. So there's a slight difference, but we want a holistic message that comes the same way and across. It's just easier to implement. Chris, you want to jump in on any of that?
I think I wouldn't say this about Pick the Gift, but I could say it in general for your listeners is that it's way easier to lose touch than it is to maintain
Mm.
touch with your employees, I feel, because staying connected to your employees really takes effort and it takes time. And if you have turnover, which can happen at the best businesses, sometimes turnover is a healthy thing. It can lead to like a whole new environment of people that you actually have not spent any time getting to know. One of the things we're doing here, up in just a week or two, we're going to start some, I guess we're calling them lunch and learns, Wes, correct me if I'm
Mhm.
wrong,
You're correct.
an opportunity just to sit and sort of have lunch with people.
Hmm.
Turns out lunch is one of our favorite meals here at Pick the Gift. Who would have guessed? But we, just sitting down and talking with people and just getting to know them a little bit, giving them an environment where they can, speak their mind and answer questions or ask questions, even more importantly. So that's the sort of thing that if someone walks away from the meeting with no additional actionable intelligence, but they feel like they were listened to, that's actually a great start.
Right. Right. Yeah, definitely. So with teams as big as yours, are these lunch and learns? Are they in like segments of the facility? Different groups come in at different times, or is it more of like one of y'all are at the front of the room with a lot of people?
Bennett,
Yeah,
we're
great,
trying to
great question.
maximize the number of lunches because we love lunch so much. So yes, we're going to have many lunches with small groups of.
No, the structure's small group.
Okay.
Me personally, I enjoy small groups better.
Yeah.
Being the introvert I am. Yeah. So I mean, it's a group of I think it's 5 to 8 employees with Keith and myself, and we're just gonna sit there and just have a casual conversation, talk about give them a little more insights into who we are and learn more about them, and just kind of interact. We're throughout the year we've got it scheduled to meet with every employee.
Well, I feel like one theme I'm getting out of this conversation is that, and I've noticed this in my own experience in business, that like smaller teams can move quicker, they can change quicker, and it's easier to hear from people. So when you're growing and you're becoming this larger company, it makes it that much more important to put extra effort into connecting with your employees and hearing them, hearing their concerns. I think that's really something any employer could take a lesson from. For other manufacturing leaders, though, trying to grow quickly without burning out their people, is there any other advice you would give them?
I would say structure and process is your best plan for not burning out people.
Yes.
But if you're growing quickly, you're going to burn out people. It's just very hard not to. And you're going to go through different phases. And until you get to that mature point, it's tough to get everything in place. But we listen, we try and put processes in place that enable them to succeed. the best. Say another thing that's helpful is sometimes it's better to slow down than speed up, which helps the employees. A lot of times you're yelling at them or grinding at them to get a certain number out. And those numbers, yes, may be achievable for an hour a day, but for 8, 10, 11, 12 hours a day, no human can keep that pace. Sometimes you need to slow things down to get to a more achievable, it's a marathon, not a sprint pace.
Yes.
And that will help keep your employees more engaged. And, we've found that certainly. We've taken some processes internally and said, hey, we can work it at X, but let's slow it down and get a more consistent pace than a pace that runs like this all day, where they're sprinting and walking and sprinting and walking and sprinting. Let's just get a good steady jog all day long, and then everybody's going to be happier, and we're going to be able to sustain it.
And I will say, I'm not sure there's anything you can do during certain times of the year, maybe to prevent burnout. You might be able to slow it down or whatever the case. One of the things I think we're focusing on too is having people feel a sense of contribution so that they feel as though they're part of the overall mission here to create, amazing customized products for our best customers. So with, contribution being a really important human need that people have, we've attempted to incorporate that into kind of our daily life here with something we're calling like kudos. So that basically you can give someone a shout out on Slack, and most, if not all, employees will see it. And that can be a really positive thing for someone's like work self-esteem. And if you're
Mm.
feeling a little bit burned out, this can give you a reason to get up and do it again the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. I should say it's pretty refreshing to actually hear this kind of realistic approach to the burnout conversation. I feel like this last few years there's been this theme of like we have to do everything we can to avoid it, to squash it, to make sure it's not there at all. But acknowledging that it's kind of a natural offshoot of any organization. There's going to be times of the year where things get busy, where people are stressed, and just doing whatever you can to make sure it's a healthy amount, that it's not getting on top of people. That makes a lot of sense to me. Well, Chris, Wes, from both of your perspectives, Wes as the founder and Chris coming in with fresh eyes, how do you think about telling the company's story to potential hires when many roles aren't even posted publicly? I understand.
I can take that first. We continue to strive to, like we just talked about, strive to improve our workplace. And then we really need to adequately demonstrate those improvements and let people know who we are, especially during the hiring process. So
Hmm.
my feeling on hiring basically is that it's really a crapshoot for both sides. Like you don't really know exactly who you're hiring, and new hires don't exactly know what it's going to be like to work there until they're there. Basically, all is revealed in like 2 to 4 weeks. That's when you figure out the truth. So as an employer, you want that 2 to 4 week truth to line up perfectly with the idea that you sold the employee when you were, recruiting them. This is a good place to work. Here's what will be expected of you. Here are the tools that you'll need and the training that you'll need. Here's the mentorship that you'll lean on, and you're going to succeed. And is that how it turns out? And if it does turn out that way, if it doesn't turn out that way, rather, you're an employer with a turnover problem. So in my role, storytelling can help, I think, prospective employees, honestly, prospective customers, current employees, really anyone figure out and understand what we're about and what they can expect should they decide to join us. So that's where I kind of see my role.
Absolutely. Yeah, storytelling, lining up with marketing definitely checks out to me. Wes, any final thoughts there?
No, as usual, Chris said it well. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for us is to make sure that all levels of leadership and management are teaching the same things, right? I mean, as Chris said, you go through the interview and you have expectations and you get there, and if those expectations aren't met or you're oversold something, you're not going to be happy, and vice versa, right? I mean, we've all had interviews where we've interviewed somebody and showed up and go, "Is that the same person?" But that happens, and that's to me, in my personality, I don't understand that, right? I'm looking for a good fit as an interviewer, right? I'm trying to find a job that I want to be at. I don't want to be somebody else and then show up and like, I mean, but I guess everybody has different reasons for things. We've talked about that earlier. Our goal is to be genuine, be who we are. That's kind of what we've always been. Are we the same person for me all the way down to the last? Absolutely not. We're all unique people, but trying to get that same mission and values all the way through the organization so that when you walk through the door, you get a similar feeling, right?
Hmm.
And that's our goal, and that's what we strive to do. And, we'll continue to work to be better at it. And that's I think about as good as we can do on that front.
I will say also that, as leaders, I feel like it's very humbling to say to ourselves, this can become an even better place to work.
Right.
That we're not there yet. And Wes talked to me about that pretty early in my tenure here that, he has goals to improve this place for its employees.
Right.
And that he does take it very seriously, that there are a lot of people who work here whose livelihoods depend on things going well. And I think that's very humbling for a leader to express that and to live out those values every day at work.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I frequently say that to people when I'm having discussions. It's like, and they're negotiating or trying to get something. I say, listen, this decision isn't about me. I've got a whole lot of other people who, trust me to make a decision for them. And so I can't go out and make stupid decisions or go out and take a crazy risk, right?
Yeah.
I got to go out and make what I think is the best for everybody in the company. And that's my job. I may be the founder, but still I represent everybody there.
Absolutely. I feel like you'll have this great focus on your culture, but also making strategic steps to make sure it's the most profitable company for your people. It seems like you're striking a great balance amongst all this. I know it can be difficult, but again, I really admire the way you're running this organization. Wes, Chris, I've been so stoked to talk with you today. Is there anything in closing that we haven't talked about that you wanted to share, or anything there's left unsaid?
That I've always looked for in an employer and in a job is any sense of psychological safety that I can have in the role. And that's where micromanagement comes in because that really takes psychological safety away. I have often thrived in places where like I feel safe to take risks, to, fail with a good explanation, where my ideas are listened to. So I would just encourage listeners who are running companies to try to foster that kind of environment.
Absolutely. Okay.
When you're looking for a role or a job, look for the right fit for you, right? Don't try and cram yourself into a hole just to get the job. That's going to create misery for both parties, and it's not going to probably end well. Look for the right fit, make sure it's something you want,
Mm,
and then make sure you have the capacity to do the job, and that's what you should be looking for. That's kind of what we look for. Do you want it? Do do you get it? Do you want it? And do you have the capacity to accomplish it?
absolutely. Alrighty, guys. I really appreciate both those perspectives and all the conversation today.
I highly recommend that people check out pickthegift.com, PIC thegift.com. And we have a new blog, which everyone should go check out. This podcast will eventually appear on that blog. So, Bennett, we really appreciate your time today and inviting us onto the show.
Thanks, Bennett.
Thank you, Wes and Chris. This was awesome. I hope people will go and check out the website and the blog. And I'll let you go for today. Thanks so much for joining the call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty.